Hi and welcome to another Social Media Genius Week video. Today we're talking about how you make your digital presence work. My name is Martin and I'm the Business Development Director for the Media Marketing Co, and today I'm joined by our very own genius, Claire Burdett, the founder and MD of the Media Marketing Co. Hi Claire.
Hi.
So in terms of this, there's a term you band around a lot called social traction. What exactly do you mean by social traction, and what does it mean for you and for businesses?
Social traction is, let's go back to traction for a minute. Traction is the exchange of energy. So without traction, if you're trying to go somewhere, in a car for example, your wheels will turn if you haven't got traction. And it's the same online, on digital, and it doesn't matter pretty much where you are, whether you're on social media, whichever platform, or you're looking to get content found by your audience, wherever it is. If you haven't got purchase, if you haven't got traction, then you're pretty much throwing the energy away and your wheels will keep spinning. This is particularly evident with the amount of content we all produce, and as Mark, I think it was in one of the other videos, said that something like 95% of the content we produce that is produced online just goes in a digital dustbin. Nobody reads it really, nobody acts on it, it's irrelevant. And you don't want, as a business, you can't afford for your content to end up in a digital dustbin. So social traction is about taking the content you put out on your website and aligning it with the content that you put out on your social media and the content that you put out through PR, and the way it's optimized for SEO. Now these all rely on words and making sure that the keywords, the words you use, are correct. And so it very much depends on what your audience wants and what words they use to look for you. So it doesn't matter really what you're selling, but what does matter is that you don't write a description just because you feel it's okay. You need to know that what you're looking for, what you're writing is what they're looking for. We have a client who makes or supplies, actually not makes, various widgets and construction elements, lots and lots and lots of them. And he has descriptions for some of his things, quite a lot of his things, which the people buying call the white blob that works, for example, or the black bendy tube. That's not the description they have on their website. So what needs to happen with that is that we need to include that in the content so that it can be found by the people who are looking. And then that needs to also go out onto social media and onto PR and into the SEO so that people can actually find it when they're looking. Otherwise, he's invisible. And this is true for all businesses. It doesn't matter what you're selling. If you're not actually using the words that the audience are looking for, then you won't get found. Now, it's all very well. Everybody knows this really if you're in marketing. The magic happens when you start working it together. So what you're actually saying here is said here, and it's also said over there, and it's all using the same language, and it's all interconnecting, and it's done at the right time to a strategy, and it's using the words and the creatives that your audience are looking for. So, it might be that you're looking to sell to parents who are trying to find the money to put their children through private school, for example, or you're trying to sell services to businesses. The language there would be very different. So you need to be using the language that people are looking for, and you need to know which networks they're on, and you need to know how they absorb content, what they like to read, where they go to find their information, because most of sales are now online. For example, you don't really do sales the old-fashioned way unless you're in a particular niche these days, certainly not after the pandemic. Most people do the research beforehand, so they'll be looking online to get the information, to educate themselves, to make sure they're making the right decision before they actually go through with it. And most people also will ask their peers. Now, all of us pretty much belong to community pages, or networking groups online, and you'll get, it's like BNI but not kind of restricted. You'll say, anybody recommend a good roofer? Does anybody know a good copywriter? Does anybody know where I can buy? And that's where you start most of the time. Each social network is its own search engine. There's very little crossover between them, and Google will play nicely with some and not nicely with others. Facebook, it doesn't really play with at all. Facebook's like a walled garden. On the other hand, it plays very well with LinkedIn and Twitter. So when you're trying to optimize your content in order to push your website up to the top of Google, clearly you're going to choose the right network to help do that. Now, if you do this consistently over a period of time, we usually say it takes 4 to 6 months. It can be longer depending on how much content you're putting out and how you're doing it. You do that consistently over a period. Eventually, Google will say, that person who's looking for, I don't know, a widget that does a wobbly white thing, or a song about Teletubbies, or whatever it is talking about it over here, and then that person was recommended over there that does it, and then this person over there was talking about it, and there was a post over here, and it starts to join it all up, and then whoosh, bang, it goes to the top of Google. And you want to be on the front page of Google, because I think it's nearly 90% of people don't go beyond the first page.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, from your definition there, it's all about, especially in the current environment, spending your energy wisely, isn't it? It's about, traction's about actually getting the most out of the energy that you put into your marketing and your social media stuff. But I mean, to me, it's obvious why it's necessary. I think it covers it off there, but it's presumably about getting your business visible is why traction's important on that.
Yeah, it is. It really is, because if people can't find you, they won't buy from you. They can't buy from you because they can't find you. So your number one priority, if you've got a business that's selling anything online, which most of us are now doing because of the pandemic and the current situation, is to be visible. Now, because everybody's gone online, it's got really noisy, so it's even more important to be able to cut through and talk to your audience. 77% of companies, most people wouldn't care if about 77-80% of companies just disappeared overnight, and you don't want to be in that percentage. You want to be in a percentage of companies where people care about you, and in order for them to know and care about you, you've got to talk their language. That's why it's necessary. You need to know what they're talking about, you need to know what they care about, you need to know what they're looking for, and then you need to be visible in their circle, on their radar, because if you're not, they'll ignore you, they won't find you.
Yeah, that's really the key inputs into what's involved in social traction, isn't it? I guess you start with those questions and then start looking to apply that to everything else that there is. What else is there that's actually involved in getting social traction?
Well, it doesn't always have to be that you get a lot of likes on a post. People confuse likes on a post with people actually taking action. If you look at the analytics, often you'll get click-through off a post without people necessarily sharing it or liking it. So the key thing is to know the circles you're moving in, to actually have it being used and referred to and talked about in the right circles, and that means you need to get it under the noses of the influencers, which we've covered elsewhere. You need to be talking the right language, which again we've covered off elsewhere, and you need to be somebody that a brand that somebody can trust. I think it was Douglas said that you need to not act like a corporation. The more you can act like a human being as a business, the more trust people will have in you. And that's the secret sauce really with traction, is get the positioning right, talk to people on a human level, and then you become much more liked and lovable, and people will refer you, and they will recommend you, and they will like your, act on your posts and your content because they like you and they like what you do.
I guess all those posts feed quite nicely into your SEO and your links to your website and all those sorts of bits as well.
Yeah, it does, because when the SEO is on point, for example, you don't want to be optimizing, say you sell pajamas, you don't want to be optimizing for children's pajamas because there's something like 6 million pages optimized for children's pajamas, and trust me, you need the biggest budget in the world to compete with the people who are on the front page of Google for that term. But say you sold pajamas that are made out of cotton and they've got, I don't know, knights and unicorns and fantasy figures on. Well, there may only be a handful of pages optimised for those kind of pyjamas, and yet there might still be 200 or 300 people a month looking to buy, and they're usually very specific about what they want. So if you can optimise your content that's very focused, in a very focused way, front end, that's the descriptions, on your social media, that's known as social media optimization, and at the back end in your meta tags and your SEO, and that's all of it, pictures, content, everything, not just what Yoast tells you, then it all starts to work together a lot faster.
So it seems like it's almost a bit of magic as it all links together, that it's kind of, although each thing by itself may be quite easy, actually getting everything linked, working together is a certain amount of magic and know-how around it.
Yeah, it's very incremental. It's little tiny things. A bit like if you're a Harry Potter fan, it's like making a potion. Little tiny tweaks can make a huge difference. And if you leave an ingredient out, it won't work. So, it's an art and a science to get it right. But when it does work, the results can be stunning. We haven't yet failed to get a business on the front page of Google if we've had enough time and budget. That's the rider. You do have to commit to doing it, and it does take quite a lot of content. And unfortunately, it does take 4 to 6 months usually, which is why at the moment we're watching brands really struggle, because they've come online, they don't know what they're doing, they do a bit of this and a bit of that and chuck that out, and they're still invisible. And that's really why we're sharing this today.
Yeah, as you say, it's like with that potion, they're putting in energy, but they're kind of not. They don't have all the ingredients together.
No,
so,
they don't. That's it, and they're not. And then there isn't a strategy there most of the time. You need to be very focused on what you're trying to achieve and how you're trying to get there, and know exactly the words to use, the graphics, the creatives. Everything needs to be on point. What catches somebody's eye? What makes them stop? What makes them read it? What makes them recommend you? I mean, obviously you've got to do a good job. You know, if you cook Mexican food and it's rubbish, then you're not going to get recommended. That goes without saying. But I'm just taking it as read that you do a good job, that your brand is good. Now, the other thing that's important is that people are looking now. It has been for some years, but it has accelerated this year. They're looking to use brands that are local to them, brands they love. The hands that made it is very much kind of a thing now. They don't want the mass produced. And brands that are ethical, that are responsible, that have purpose, that are good. And we've heard a lot about that this week from different people, and I can't emphasize enough how important it's going to become in the future. So if you're not doing it, then you need to have a good look at your business and see where you can big up the good stuff you're doing and change and pivot stuff that's perhaps not so desirable. It'll make a difference.
I think there were some great tips and insights there that you might have just let out the bag. No, that's great. I mean, if you were trying to summarise social traction into, just a very brief your one tip that you would want to give to people about social traction and how to get it, how would you, or what would you say to people as your one tip?
I'm not sure there is one tip, but if get your ducks in a row, do your research, put your Miss Marple hat on, make sure you know exactly that you've got the content, you've got the material, you know what they're looking for, and then keep the effort consistent. Just work to the strategy, keep it nimble enough so that you can pivot if you need to, but don't lose heart because it doesn't work immediately. Just keep going.
That's great. I think that's a lot of great information for the people tuning in. So thank you very much, Claire. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.